They have a top 100 greatest sci-fi movies.
We're not going to do the hunt. I mean, we don't have all that.
Gary's getting scared all of a sudden.
I did my top 101 sci-fi movies on Filmicability. So.
Oh, you always have to outdo everybody else, Dean. 101.
Just 101. Yes.
All right. Well, let's go through their top 20. Here they are. Number 20 is Verhoeven's Total Recall.
Mhm. All right. I mean, yeah. All right. I'm curious to see what else is on this list now.
I don't really care. I don't care for that movie at all. I mean,
get your ass to Mars.
It's got great scenes in it, but I don't think that it's a successful movie at all.
I'm surprised by how the trailer for the remake doesn't look like it necessarily sucks.
Yeah, I did see that trailer, and I was like, oh, good. It looks like they're really doing something different with it. So that's good.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
Are you serious?
I am dead serious.
That looks like a piece of shit if I ever saw one.
Yeah.
Really? I don't agree.
I have to say, I want to say something. As being a big Philip K. Dick fan and everything, I don't see that much of a difference between this and the original. I don't. I mean, maybe obviously the special effects are going to be somewhat better, but story-wise, it looks exactly the same.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I was never a big fan of Total Recall anyway, but I will say at CinemaCon, of all the movies that they showed, the best reaction was for Total Recall footage, and they showed all the big fall movies.
Right.
And they were most surprised by Total Recall.
It looks like in the new Total Recall, they're actually taking it seriously, whereas in the old Total Recall, the one with Schwarzenegger, I think that Verhoeven was trying to reproduce that sort of like half serious, half comical thing that he did in RoboCop and failed.
Yeah, it's the same kind of tone that he said in RoboCop and Starship Troopers. I mean, it's the kind of the parable of kind of the culture in a B movie.
Yeah.
Right. But I like the original Total Recall. I have no problem with it. I enjoyed it very much so. When it came
out. Number 19, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
Oh, that should be higher up.
Yeah, I mean that's the greatest Star Trek movie. So you have
not
to
even so much the greatest Star Trek movie. It is the definition. It is the pure definition of. I mean, Bryan Singer said it best when they thought he was going to direct, or when he thought he was going to direct the sequel to Superman. Don't worry, it's going to be more Wrath of Khan. Because the Star Trek the motion picture is. I had more fun watching paint dry as a kid.
And actually, this first Star Trek movie is more akin to Bryan Singer's Superman than Wrath of Khan.
Yeah, I mean, they're both kind of dullards.
Yeah. Number 18 is Akira.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that.
Number 17.
Yeah, I like that movie.
Number 17 is Brazil.
Definitely.
Yeah, I might put that a little bit higher up, actually.
I have to agree with you, Dean.
Number 16, Silent Running.
Definitely should be on there.
That's a little high up, I think. I mean, Silent Running, when you go back and take a look at it, it's more interesting from a visual standpoint than it is from a story standpoint.
I think the end is so sad, though, Dean.
Yeah.
It is that last image is very sad.
It is.
Yeah, so is Douglas Trumbull. Any chance I get to
Douglas Trumbull.
Any chance I get to bad talk Douglas Trumbull. Number 15 is Aliens, the Cameron movie.
Oh, come on, that has to be higher.
Now, Owen, do you view Aliens as more of an action than a sci-fi?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
It is a little bit like a war movie.
Yeah, it's a lot like Back to Baton, really, but in outer space. I mean...
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Number 14. I mean, Aliens is more like a military war movie in space, you know? Yeah, you're exactly right, yeah. A Trip to the Moon, number 14, A Trip to the Moon.
I like A Trip to the Muse, whatever that is.
Film noir. A Trip to the Moon, George Méliès, 14-minute film.
Mm-hmm.
Historically important, but not one of my favorites.
I would never have guessed that, Dean, from your love for Hugo.
What can I say?
I know.
Not much. Number 13, The Empire Strikes Back.
I would put that in the top 10.
I would put that in the top, 5 maybe. But this is my thing. Now we're getting into an interesting thing. Some of these, I think it's almost insulting to put them in sci-fi, like Brazil. And I think it's more of a satire. I mean, obviously the sci-fi.
It's more of a comedy. I just recently, it's more of a comedy than a sci-fi movie. Yeah,
it's like saying The Godfather's a mob movie.
I think when you make a list of top 100 anything, I mean, you include everything that has elements of sci-fi.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you. I just think The Empire Strikes Back is another one of those movies that is like a Godfather 2 or like The Road Warrior. Or your Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, for that matter, but it's so much more encompassing and so much better than the movie that it is that precedes it.
But all great movies do kind of have broader implications beyond their genre.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I agree with you. It's just weird. It's weird to have, I guess, The Empire Strikes Back, and also this goes with Wrath of Khan too. They should be, I think, somewhat higher. But I'm also, it's like we were talking about earlier with the Batman, the Chris Nolan Batman movies, how they transcend the genre in ways that I never thought possible. That's all. That's all I'm really saying. I just don't think of these. They're so like The Empire Strikes Back. I guess, especially on this show, we like it so much because it's a movie that we now know could never have been made today.
Certainly not by the same person.
No, certainly not by the same person. And we know getting that movie made was like almost like smoke and mirrors. Almost that they had to do things behind his back to get some of those great scenes out there. So
number 12. 1956, Forbidden Planet.
Yeah. Yes, you have to put that in there, definitely.
Number 11. I just bought this on Blu-ray. Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
That has
for
to be
sure.
Oh, without a doubt, yeah.
Oh, and that has to be there? Is that what you said?
That has to be higher at least.
Yeah, I think it would have to. Some of these, I agree with, would have to be higher. But now my curiosity is piqued. What is coming after these? So
number 10 is Tarkovsky's Solaris.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. I mean, it might be a little high, but still, no doubt, it has to be in the top 20, no question.
Yeah. E.T. is number 9. E.T., a greater sci-fi movie, and Close Encounters.
Yeah, it's so weird because E.T. is so. It's not dependent on science at all. It's all dependent on emotion and human emotion at that. So it becomes very difficult. These are, when you're making a list like this. When I made my list, I always said that in all the lists that I made on filmability, I started off by saying they're judged on 3 or maybe 4 things in order of importance. And these things could be relation to the genre, historical importance, whether they're actually good movies or not. Those are the 3 big things. And you really have to when you're making a list like this, if you're serious about it, you really have to juggle those things. You can't let your love of, say, Brazil overtake the fact that it's not really a science fiction movie. It takes place in the future, but it's really a comedy.
Well, if you make a list of greatest sci-fi movies ever made, and you're just including movies that have sci-fi elements to them, I'm not opposed to E.T. being on the list. But in terms of best science fiction movie, I think E.T. is a greater movie than Close Encounters, personally, but I don't think it's a better science fiction movie.
Right.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. That you said it like perfectly.
All right. Planet of the Apes, the original, is number 8.
Definitely.
It's got to be in there, no question.
Yeah. Number 7 is Cameron's The Terminator.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. My favorite of his movies.
The Day the Earth Stood Still at number 6. We're not talking about the Keanu Reeves. We're talking about the 1951.
And good for them. That definitely deserves to be in there, for sure.
Yeah, that's an important film.
This is a largely intelligent list.
Yeah,
it's better than some of the others that we've done over the last couple of weeks. So.
Yeah. Number 5 is Fritz Lang's Metropolis.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Number 4 is the movie that we've discussed, Ridley Scott's Alien.
Definitely.
Yep.
Number 3
Although, by the way, with Alien, there's my thing is that it's more of a horror movie than a sci-fi movie. So on my sci-fi list, it appears lower than it does on my horror list. On my horror list, it's up there because I really believe it's just a haunted house movie, in space. That's all it is.
Mhm.
But the space part is why it belongs on the sci-fi list. Star Wars is number 3.
Yeah, I mean, you can't have this list and not. I mean, you have the Empire, but Star Wars is the game changer.
In terms of best science fiction movies, Star Wars would be above Empire Strikes Back.
Not in my list. Empire Strikes Back is much better.
How do I say this? It would be there more for. I don't know about sci-fi as far as cultural and iconography, and it was a game changer in that sense. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, now you're getting into the thing. I would put as the better movie, obviously. Yeah, I think looking back, Empire is of the 6, obviously the best one.
Well, I mean, I think that everybody flocked to Star Wars and loved it. Okay,
yeah.
But it wasn't the cultural game changer that. If the second movie had not been as great as it was.
Mm-hmm.
The entire cult of Star Wars probably would have not been born, I think.
Oh no, it would have fallen apart.
If the second movie had not been as great, and even greater than the first one, actually, just greater on every level, performance, writing, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the depiction, the creation of the worlds that were in it, but
right, no.
But that belongs obviously to Star Wars.
Well, I agree with the kind of the lasting legacy that Star Wars has had and how Empire Strikes Back propelled that. But Star Wars alone changed enough to be legendary.
I mean, Star Wars is the first movie that I remember waiting in a long line. It was why you got up early in the morning to go buy tickets ahead of time. I mean, you didn't have, obviously, Movie Phone or Fandango. You got up at the crack of dawn with your mom to go buy tickets for that evening show. And we did that for like the next 10 years with those 2 movies, and with all the Indiana Jones movies. Well, obviously, except for Crystal Skull, you didn't need to do that anymore. But, that's a huge game changer right there, that you would wait in a line around a block to see a movie. Usually that was only reserved for concerts and that sort of thing, to buy tickets for concerts. We've gone to see a lot of things in a theater before Star Wars, but never remember waiting in a line for a movie.
Especially not on a worldwide level.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen stuff. I mean, you see pictures of the lines around the block for The Godfather, and and even movies from the 50s and stuff. You see
and Jaws, of course.
Yeah.
That's where my brother told me the shark came out of the screen and bit him, and I believed him. But because he had this bite mark on him, and it's like the shark. And I believed him. I believed him.
Number 2. Now, number 2 and number 1, I don't think anyone would argue that both of these movies. Hang on.
What happened? Whoa!
I'm hearing a. Now it's your phone.
No. It's Owen's.
No, it's okay now.
Yeah. no one would argue that these two movies belong on any greatest of sci-fi lists, but I would argue with the placement. And I don't even necessarily like one of these movies. Number 2 is 2001, Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
Well, that's the great sci-fi movie ever. I mean,
they put their number 1 as Blade Runner.
I'm not gonna argue with them being on the list. I don't know where I'd. What would you put there instead?
I mean, hell, number 1 is 2001. I mean, even before I liked Kubrick, even when I thought 2001 was a complete bore, I would have put it number 1 because that to me always represented the monolith of all science fiction.
Right. No, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, 2001. I mean, it's. I mean, is there any more important scene than when he throws the bone and it comes back as the spaceship? Is there any other great? I mean, that's one of the greatest transitions ever.
Well, 2001 is like, it's not only a game changer, it kind of invented the game in which Blade Runner was able to play.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, to the point where it has the same special effects designer and everything.
Yeah.
And I mean, 2001 is the greatest science fiction movie ever made, and there's no question about it. I mean, it is about the whole history of mankind seen through the prism of science. And through the prism of evolution in some ways, and besides that, it created the look of almost every movie that was subsequent to it. I mean, from Silent Running to Star Wars to what we enjoy today. You know, it really created the look of spaceships and space and everything. It's really the only movie that really depicts space the way it should be depicted, which is really completely silent.
Going on that argument, though, and especially if you're talking about Blade Runner, wouldn't you put Metropolis higher than on this list? Because I don't think you couldn't have Blade Runner without Metropolis. I would, if you're going that, I agree that 2001 probably should be number 1 on this list. There's no, there's no doubt. I don't think any of us on this show, and I don't think anyone listening to this show right now would disagree with that. But
yeah,
I mean, but Blade Runner, Blade Runner's an option. I don't. But to put, you could not. I mean, I agree with you. 2001 really is the major. It invented the game. I agree with you there. You can't overstate.
Well, in terms of cinematic sci-fi, I think it really gave a depth and a poetry and the unknowable mystery of it all, and it tied it in with so much subtext, both in terms of technology, but in terms of the beginnings of man, the nature of God. I mean, everything is in that movie. I mean, it utilizes that genre to ask
what movie
the biggest
year was
questions there are.
And also just the making of sci-fi movies, just the making of sci-fi movies in general. That was the movie that just made people realize, if you're going to make a proper sci-fi movie, you really have to sit down and create the world it depicts. You really, and that's what Scott did with Blade Runner. I mean, he really sat down and looked at every single detail.
Right.
With that movie, but I don't think that you would have had Blade Runner without 2001. I don't think that you would have had Star Wars or any of those things. I don't think that you would have had
Now that is a fact, because I mean, Star Wars, it might have been story-wise, character-wise, it might have been mostly inspired by the Kurosawa. Which Kurosawa was it?
The Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress.
Hidden Fortress.
And also
Fortress,
the Saturday morning serials that he loved.
Yeah, exactly.
Buck Rogers and Elijah Gordon.
But its whole inspiration for being was 2001. There were 5 films that they looked at to kind of create Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And 2001 was the major one.
Well, yeah,
and
it'd be hard not to look at that.
And there was Hidden Fortress and Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And, I mean, Robert Watts, the producer on the film, went through, or he was a production assistant on the film.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was there through all the screenings, and Lucas told him, 2001 was it. It changed everything for all of us. I mean, it changed everything for so many people. It's the reason why so many of our biggest directors today, and actors, and all the creative talents in filmmaking across the board, got into filmmaking.
Right.
And not only that, let's don't forget that there are a lot of people who are not in films at all that are into science, that are into the science of computers, and artificial intelligence, and NASA, and so many other things that got into it because of 2001. It's really, it is really the movie that inspired so much progress that has happened in actual science. And that itself should tell you that it is the greatest sci-fi movie ever made. It really is.
I don't see a lot of theologians talking about Blade Runner.
No, you're right. But let's not forget, this movie also influenced two recent movies that aren't sci-fi: Tree of Life and There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
I agree.
I mean, those are both they're both very important films, regardless of what you think of them. But they obviously have a big debt to Stanley Kubrick. Both of those films do.
Well, P.T. Anderson certainly. I mean, there's he credited. Well, actually, you're talking about two artists that kind of bounced off each other.
Right.
Because obviously, P.T. Anderson's influenced by Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
But There Will Be Blood is definitely influenced by Malick.
Right. Mm-hmm. No, absolutely.
And so Malick that's what you mentioned, right? There Will Be Blood in a Malick movie, Tree of Life.
Yeah.
Because Malick has that kind of meditative, existential slant in his movies, as did Kubrick, especially with 2001.
Right.
So, yeah, I agree.
It's interesting that the Tree of Life, the richness of Tree of Life, actually propels it for you to consider it as possibly a great sci-fi movie as well. Even though on its face it doesn't really seem, it's not anywhere near like a sci-fi movie, but that 30 minutes in there.
In a lot of reviews of Tree of Life, including my own modest take on it, compared it to 2001, said this is one of the greatest meditations on existence since 2001.
Yeah, and I said the same thing too. And but not only that, what it does in 2001 is its refusal to explain itself.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there. That seems to be, and I want to actually address it just for a second. I know we probably we've talked about that before, but I think if a filmmaker or a writer or whatever has to explain the movie, it loses its mystique. It loses a lot of its meaning. It's like what Bill Maher says: you don't explain the joke to the people who don't get it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I agree. I think that's great. What is it? Was it Kubrick or was it Arthur C. Clarke who said, "I don't know what the movie's about"? One of the two said they in it.
Well, Kubrick's most famous quote about it is, "The truth of the movie is not in the think of it; it's in the feel of it."
And that's exactly what I felt about Tree of Life too.
Yeah,
when I said it's a movie you intuit more than you interpret, and I feel the same way about Lynch movies.
Right.
That when they work, you can understand them by feeling them. Mm-hmm. That dictates the logic of the film.
Right.
How it makes you feel.
Those are the best movies.
Yeah.
Those are the best movies.
I gotta be honest with you. I've never, and I hate to admit this, as much as I want to. I've never read The Sentinel. That is the basis for 2001. I should, because I have this book about it. I love but I've never read that though. I don't know.
It's just in terms of a skeleton. It's not.
It's really its only connection to it. Really, is just a certain sense of well, the monolith is there.
Mm-hmm.
And everything that's connected
but
to the monolith.
But it's not shaped like that. It's shaped like a pyramid.
I thought you were going to say something else, Jamie.
Yeah.
It's shaped like Mark Wahlberg at the end of Boogie Nights. It's just...
No, but I do want to say this about I do enjoy 2010, and I read the rest of the books in that series, but there is when you have to, they do explain things in those books, and when you do get the explanation, it does take the mystique out of that. I kind of wish that they never made 2010 in a movie. I kind of wish he never wrote, because it's like really neat. That
2010 does take the air out of the movie. In some ways, it's like
it turns it into it's a movie of its time. It's a very Cold War, more so than the original one. It's such a thing for the Cold War at the time.
That's what he wanted to do.
Yeah, I know.
From the start.
Yeah.
And as it was said in the first episode of the Kubrick series that we did, I mean, Kubrick wanted to do a sci-fi movie.
Right.
He asked around. He said, "Who's the best sci-fi writer right now?" And they recommended Arthur C. Clarke. And so he looked through some of his stuff, and The Sentinel was a short story.
Right.
And he says, I want to go off of this. And it wasn't necessarily what Arthur C. Clarke had in mind.
Right.
But he said, okay. So, just months and months of discussion and analyzation and just endless to try to pare this thing down to the essential elements that Kubrick wanted to explore. You know? And it's brilliant how it was done.
Right. I agree with that.
It's a film of ideas, and I think that sci-fi, what makes sci-fi so great when it works, are the ideas. That you can ask the big questions and kind of explore them and let your imagination run wild.
Right. No, I agree with a lot of that.
Can I name some movies that weren't on this top 25 that I think should be on there? Things like AI, or artificial intelligence, which is also sort of a Kubrick movie. Quatermass and the Pit, which was done by Hammer Films. That should be definitely in the top 20. I'm a big fan of TX 1138.
Ones that I all agree with,
especially the director's cut.
Yeah, I agree with all of those, but especially the Quatermass and the Pit. You talk about a movie about big ideas and controversial ideas, and also maybe and if what Prometheus is what I think it's about, this is a movie at its time that introduced a theory that was absolutely insane.
Yeah,
I think even by today's standards, it's very chilling, and it's a fascinating theory. But this was also a movie. I don't think you could make that movie today. It's too brainy. It's too. You have to think too much. That's another movie where someone might have to explain it. If you have to come out and explain it, well, that's not good.
Yeah.
Well, that movie's not on this Type 100 list. But the
shame.
is smart by and large. I mean, the list even has Alphaville on it and stuff.
Right.
So it does have broad horizons. This list, so it's a good job.
No.
Yeah, they did a good job.